everybody, Dizzy Crafter here with a video where I'm going to be doing a comparison between the Bigshot Plus, the Sizzix version, and the Gemini, both being the A4 size electronic machines. And I feel like the first thing we need to look at is where you start. So obviously we've done unboxings on both of these, well not particularly this one, but I have done a Gemini unboxing on the Gemini Junior. And this comes with more or less the same things anyway, just bigger plates. But the first thing that I think we should look at is the length of the cord. Now, the length of the cord on the Gemini is roughly about 1 metre long, but the Sizzix one is roughly about 2 metres long, so there is a big difference via the cord size. So if an issue is where you really need a longer cord, then obviously the Pro would be to go with the Sizzix. If that isn't an issue and you can get to your sockets easily enough, then the Gemini is. Now you can always buy an extension if you prefer to go with the Gemini as well, so it's not like the be end and end all, but just is something to consider. So without further ado, I'm just going to get these plugged in. The next thing we need to look at is the plates. Now for me, the plate sandwich things is, personally for me, is the Bigshot. Time and time again, it's less complicated. They have everything printed on, whereas the Gemini, there's so many different plates, so many different sandwiches, which some people might think that that is a really good thing because it gives you more versatility. Me personally, I feel like it can be a bit confusing. So we'll go with the Gemini plates first. So the first ones we've got, which you do not have to have, but are the multimedia die plates. Now these are clean, I've never ever used them. I did buy them because I did buy some multimedia dies and I've still yet to use them. So these you have to purchase separately, it does not come with the machine. The plates that do come with the machine is the A4 metal plate. You get 2 cutting plates. And you get a magnetic plate, and you get a plastic shim, and I'm actually missing a rubber mat that you do actually get. So you get, including the rubber mats, you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 plates with it, or 6 sandwiches if you like. And then you need, if you want to buy the multi-purpose media dies, then you need to purchase those separately. I can't remember the cost of the cutting plates on either of them, but they're usually, with most machines, not usually too far out from each other. But because the Sizzix only has 2 cutting plates that you need to purchase, they are the only ones you need to keep, the consumables that you need to keep repeating to buy. Whereas with the Gemini, you need to keep repeating all of these sandwiches. Alright, some won't get used as much as others, but it's still something to bear in mind. Now this metal shim is what you use if you're using fabric apparently. Now I did buy my Gemini second hand from Facebook, so I've not actually used this as such in the Gemini. This is just how it came to me. But all my other plates I have actually purchased new, because the plates that was given, there was just waste of time really. So, and since purchasing the Sizzix in the back end of January, I think I received it in the beginning of February, I've not really used this Gemini just because I find this one easier personally for me. So that's why these plates are not that bad. But trust me, like, these are my, I think, 3rd set of plates. These warp so quick, so easily. I did find a video on YouTube where it shows you can put them actually in the oven, and you can do it, and I have done it with the previous plates, and it does melt them down, but you really need to keep an eye on that. And if I can find that video, I will link it for anybody, because it will work with any of these plastic shims. I know there's things you can do by putting them in hot water and letting them to do that as well, but I just found the oven one less mess really, no messing about with water or anything, just you need to keep an eye on it. So that's the plates for the Gemini. When you get the plates for the Sizzix Switch, you literally get 2 cutting plates. Now I have been using this since I got it and it is battered, but it is only just starting to warp. Now I've had this 6 months now and I have done so much. I've cut fabrics, I've cut big dies, I've cut finlets, I've done mini albums, I've done all, like, so many cards and stuff on this. I am really impressed on the little warpage, whereas if you look at, is it this one? If you look at this one isn't that far out, and what this one tends to do is it kind of bows like at the top and then dips on that side, so it's really weird how these go, whereas this one just kind of bows that way. So when I put it in the machine, I just keep flipping it, if you remember, that is. So yeah, so you just get those 2 plates, and then, gosh, mine is so dirty because I was cutting out flowers. It's got fabric all over. And then you get the plastic shim, which will tell you what you need to do, which I really think is really informative. And then you get the base plate again, which is really informative, telling you like what to use for embossing folders, what you use for the finlets, what you use for the big dies, which obviously we don't use any of these for the big dies, we just use cutting plates. And you've got like the intricate dies. What else on this one? You've got the texture impressions, the 3D textures impressions, embossing folders, and how to emboss with it as well. Now I did have to buy like a rubber mat to go with this as well, which again I didn't pull out, and I'm really sorry. So that is something you do actually have to buy extra, but I feel like that is the only thing that you do actually have to buy. And I do think that these plates may be a couple pound dearer, but you're only having to replace the 2 plates as opposed to several plates. You can use also the plates from the previous Bigshots, whether you got the 6-inch, the 12-inch one, I think it's 12-inch, but the A4 one. So yeah, so that to me is a big thing about these machines, is that the cutting plates are a bit minimal and there's less to actually think about when you're doing them. Yes, on the Bigshot, on this particular one, they don't do a magnetic base plate, so you can buy them for the previous manual machines and they work in here fine. I've used mine and they've been perfectly fine. So yes, that's more or less it for the actual cutting plates that I can recall. And the one other thing we've got on this one, we have actually got like this tray to pull. It pulls down and it kind of protects and keeps dust, because you've got a dust flap here on the back, so it does help keep the dust minimum. So you've also got this flap here which gives you a little bit of a tool caddy. I just literally store my paperwork in here, and they've got a spare poker tool in there, so I don't really bother with that, but it's still really nice to actually have, as opposed to this has just a clear opening. At the back you have got the flap to keep the dust out, but the dust can easily get in here. And you notice that this bit here gets scratched up quite a lot and marked, so I mean this will as well, I'm sure, because like I said, this is second hand, but going on my Gemini Junior, which I haven't had that long either, that does the same. It's just when the plates are going in, they're scratching it all the time, whereas I've not noticed it on here because obviously we've got this rigid platform as well. So without further ado, we're going to do some cutting. So we just need to turn it on and turn it on. And I just want to say on this one we've got a pause and a reverse, and we've actually got a reverse on this one, but there isn't a pause button. But to be fair, I don't really use the pause button anyway, because why would you need to pause it when you want it to cut? So we'll just get some dies out and then we'll do some die cutting. So I'm just going to use this Spellbinders pop-up card, and I'm actually only going to use some cheap cards just while this was only a trial. It may not do the creases, it may cut right through, I don't know. If it does, we'll get the all-purpose card. So the sandwich for this is going to be your plate that you're cutting on, then your card, and then you want to place your die on that, It's up to you which way you want to use it really, whether you want the plastic shim and then the magnetic, it's entirely up to you. I tend to go with the plastic shim. As you can see, this warps as well. I've even had magnetic shims warp on me as well, so all these have been replaced a couple of times now. So I just go plastic shim, magnetic shim, and then your top plate. And obviously I have cut into this as well because they do recommend you actually move them, like switch them round and stuff like that. We're going to place it in. Now, if you heard that cracking then, that is actually normal for any die cutting machine. But this one, while I was doing it, actually we forgot to say, you'll notice the sound difference. This is, it's still got a noise to it, but this is much noisier than the Sizzix. So let's have a look at the die and see how well it cut it out. So it's cut it out and it's actually put the score lines in as such. I mean, I'm not too sure how this one goes, but the score lines are all there. So it's cut it out perfectly. Like I say, it is just cheap card, and I'm noticing, you'll probably not see in this video, but I can see it's kind of gone through this card. But like I say, it is only cheap card anyway, so we'll try the same die but in the Sizzix. This one you want the big thick platform, then you want the shim A as well, and then it's up to you which way you want to do it. I try to keep this one clean if I'm honest, so what I'm going to do is put that sandwich down first, then I'm going to put the die down, and then I'm just going to put the die, the cardstock on top, and then the extra cutting plate, and then pop this in. Now straight away, before I start this, straight away this feels so much easier. You're not fighting to try and get, you've got this rest to try and get all your plates straight, whereas this you've got to do it with your hands, and when them plates warp, trust me, that is really hard. I end up using my belly and all kinds to push it because it's just so difficult, whereas I've not got to that point with this yet. But this one just takes it so easy. And as you can see, it's so much quieter. So I will try to run the both at the same time, but it's unlikely I'll be able to. So with this one, because this plate is so bad, it has actually picked up all the nastiness on that plate. But to avoid this, just put a couple of sheets of copy paper down, and you don't get this like horribleness on your card. So let's give that a go. So we need to bend this down. And no issues with that whatsoever, as in cutting it and the scores. And I'm just looking in, and it hasn't actually put any of these little holes in the card, whereas the Gemini has. It's obviously got too much pressure on that one to do it, but it was minuscule. But if you're making the card, you don't want to be wasting your good cardstock, whereas this, it's not broken it, and it's the exact same cardstock I've used. So what I'm going to try to do is have them both running and see how we get on with that. I'm just going to cut this one out on the Gemini, but this dies, actually this particular set comes with lots of little dies. Now if you're wanting to do lots of little dies on here, you really need your not low tacky tape, but then I still feel like there's that much pressure, it still pulls the cardstock off. Whereas with this one, especially if you're using the magnetic base, I feel like it stays in place a lot easier because you can set up your plates on here, place your dies, then your card, and then send it through. Whereas like I said, you've literally got to hold all that sandwich of dies and cardstock and everything yourself to get that through. It can be very tricky at times to do it. So I'm just going to actually throw several of the dies on here. I'm not actually making this card, but we'll just throw quite a few. Oops, I dropped one. So you can see we've got quite a few, several different dies on this plate, and what I like to do is just rest that on that platform there, just so that the dies don't move. Whereas if I did that in here, I'm holding them and they're moving around and they fall out, and it's just an absolute nightmare in my opinion. So I've just got some copy paper and I'm just going to put that on the back of the card. I'm just going to put a couple of slices down. And you would get that with either machine or any other machines you've got once your plates start to warp, because like you can see here, there's red fibres and everything stuck in the plates from when I've done fabric. There's bits of paper, there's all kinds in there, so that's why it picks it up, all the creases, all the cut marks, everything. So we've got that going on there now. So we're going to do the same cut again. So we've got the cutting plate at the bottom, then we want our cardstock, which I'm going to put a piece of copy paper in front of it so it doesn't mark it, then the cardstock, then our die. And you want your magnetic shim, it's called a magnetic shim, you want the plastic shim, the magnetic shim, and then your second cutting plate, and then try to get them so they're all squished in at the same side. They're all like together and they've not got any overlapping. So we'll put this one in first because this one's so much harder to do. In fact, let's see if I can get them to do the same time and we'll see who cuts it. This one started off the soon. So with that, the Sizzix, don't know if you heard me with the machines going on, did slightly start just before the Gemini and it finished at the same time. So I'd say the Gemini was probably a second or so quicker. So again, if time's an issue, then that might be your thing. But let's show you the cardstock again we've just cut. So like I say, this does get marked, but nowhere near as much as the other one. So the plastic shim is a good idea to a degree. So that's your copy paper cut. But again, this has still left marks, but nothing like the previous one. So there's the card again, just as before really, there's no difference. But I'm not seeing any split in the card this time, which is unusual because we actually added the copier paper this time. So go figure with that one. I've no idea why it did it last time but not this time. As you can see, we've got lots of cutouts here. They came out the card quite easily. Now I'm just going to look at this one. And I know what I've done wrong. I put the copier paper the wrong way around, but it doesn't matter because you want the front side of these nice and smooth. It doesn't matter about the backs on this particular one because these would be your matte and layers anyway. That's I can't think of anything else that I could personally say what the differences are. The cost, I think the Sizzix is a slightly dearer than the Gemini, and they always have offers on Crafter's Companion on the Gemini as well. Whereas I know certain people will sell this at discounts and stuff, so you just have to keep an eye on it. Personally, if there was the same price, I would always go with the Sizzix. If the Sizzix was even £50 dearer, I would go with this. After trying both and using both for quite a while now, like I've had this one since about October last year, maybe September, October last year, but like I said, this was second hand, and I've had this since February this year. Hands down, I would choose the Sizzix personally, even if it is a few bob more, because I feel like it just is so much easier to use. If you've got lots of dexterity problems, you're really going to struggle to use the bigger plates in this. That said, you can actually buy other plates, so the Gemini Junior plates will fit in this, so you don't necessarily have to have two die cutting machines if you wanted this one. Like this one, like I said before, the manual ones do fit in this as well, but obviously using the Gemini Junior plates in this for the smaller dies does make things easier. And I'll just go and get the plates from a Gemini Junior, because I'll show you how warped they are, but I've used them in this. So these are the same plates that you would use like you would in your big one, but obviously they're half the size, so they're so much easier to use. You do have to put them in this way because it won't take it that way, but as you can see, this plate as warped as anything, and this hasn't actually been used that much, if I'm honest, because since getting the Sizzix, I've very rarely pulled either of these out. So if I'm going to use something for this size, really, I would probably just pull my manual Gemini out. So, but it is handy to be able to have that option, like if you want to have two sets of plates for this, so that you don't always have to use your bigger plates unless you're using bigger dies, because it makes no sense to like cut little things like this out on the big plates unless you've got a whole plate of them. So that's, for me, the Sizzix just wins every time. Pros on the Gemini, you can get 3 different size Geminis. So you can get the Gemini Junior, you can get the original Gemini, and then you can actually get a 12x12 Gemini as well. The pros for the Sizzix, this is the only electric one of this, although they have had other Bigshot ones that are electric, but they're like more bulky. This is more compact. Like the nearest to this, I would say, was the Sizzix Vagabond by Tim Holtz. Now, I used to love that machine, but apparently since I've been missing in action during not doing crafting for a fair few years, it's had some bad press, whereas I never had any issue with my Vagabond. I loved my Vagabond, I'm not going to lie, but I love this a lot more than I did my Vagabond. It's just so much nicer to use, and it's good that they obviously can take the A4 dies as well. We're just going to look at some of the side-by-side things that I feel like one machine would be better over than another. So the first thing we actually looked at was obviously the cord. So for me, the Sizzix wins it with the cords. That's 1-0 to the Sizzix, because it's always better to have too much than not enough. So then the second thing is we looked at the plates. Again, the Sizzix wins it for the plates for me, because you're not having to hold all the plates, you're not having to replace so many different plates as well. And the plates, they do warp. Obviously every die cutting machine in the world will warp, the plates will warp, but I feel like the Sizzix plates don't warp half as much or as quickly as the Gemini plates. You're having to replace so many plates as well. You're literally having to just replace your 2 cutting pads, and whereas you've got several on the Gemini. So 2-0 to the Sizzix again. Ease of use, as you can see, we've got this platform here where we can rest the plates on whilst we're putting things on. This doesn't, and this can be very difficult to manipulate and get them in. It's fantastic when you first get your plates and it goes in like a dream, but once them plates start to warp, it can be really difficult. So 3-0 to Sizzix. Cutting, I don't feel like there's a plus or a minus. I'd say there was both on par on the cutting. Obviously I know we had some issue with one of the cards, it cut slightly a little bit more through, but I literally had to look for that. But if I was sending a card, I definitely wouldn't have sent that card because I'd have been frightened in case the hole went bigger. So I guess a fraction is the Sizzix, so what's that, are we on 4-0? I'm not really selling this Gemini, am I really? Cost, the Gemini will win on the cost because it is cheaper. But then I think, is it cheaper in the long run when you've got to replace that amount of plates and you've only got to replace the 2 plates? And are all these 2 plates, I'm sure, are slightly dearer. I'll have to do some research after my video. Maybe I should have done that research before doing this video, but I will put a link in the description for plates for both. But again, there's so many websites that sell the plates for both of these machines. You'll always find a deal usually. I got a deal with my plates from Crafts for Less, I think it was. When this machine came out that weekend, Crafts for Less had an offer on for the cutting pads, and I got 2 for £15 or something. And that's something else you need also, now I'm thinking about it, the Gemini ones, you only get 1 plate, whereas when you buy the Sizzix you get 2 plates. So really the cost might even be cheaper again on the Sizzix, on the cost of plates again, just on the cutting pads themselves. So geez, it's really not like, I'm not selling the Gemini. Like when I got this Gemini, I absolutely loved it until the plates started to warp and I struggled to get it in. That is why I ended up purchasing the Sizzix. And like the noise factor, this is so much quieter. Like if my son was in bed, I was crafting at night, which isn't very often to be fair, but if it was, but my other half, he works like sort of nights. So when he's in bed in the daytime, I couldn't use this because it's so loud, but I feel confident that this wouldn't wake him up. I'm really struggling. I really want to find some real positives for the Gemini. I mean, I love Crafter's Companion, I do, but I really am struggling. So I feel like you all can see that I sway towards the Sizzix. And just to let you all know, I don't think I actually said, I did purchase both these machines myself. This video is not sponsored. I mean, all my reviews are honest anyway. Not that I've been asked to do any like sponsored crafting videos or anything like that, but even if they did, if I got asked in the future, they would always be honest. So no matter who makes it or what. I feel like we've really kind of come to a standstill because I can't really think of anything else I can say about the machines other than go with the Sizzix. Hands down for me, the Sizzix. I'm sure there's people, crafters out there that feel that the Gemini is for them. So my overall thoughts, obviously I feel like you can all tell via this video that the Sizzix is my favourite, and we've listed numerous reasons why the Sizzix is my favourite, and I'm really struggling to actually find a positive with the Gemini over the Sizzix. Like, so yeah, so the Sizzix is the way to go. I am actually going to be gifting my Gemini to my sister-in-law, as it's still fully working machine. It works fine. I feel like if she'd used the Sizzix afterwards, she probably would end up going buying the Sizzix herself. But for this like machine, it's going to go to a new home, so it'll be its 3rd home, and it's served me well, and I'm happy I've got to try it. And I'm still going to keep my Gemini Junior, and the reason I'm keeping that is for doing the foil press, because I couldn't use the foil press in this, so you do need a Gemini Junior if you're going to use the Crafter's Companion foil press. I've actually just finished editing the video, and the one thing I realised whilst watching back this video is I never actually touched on the fact that the Sizzix do the big dies, which is fantastic for him to do the steel roll dies. I really love the steel roll dies because it can cut like chipboard and all that kind of material. The Gemini, again, it doesn't do it whatsoever. There's no way that this can go through there on its own, never mind with the plates and stuff as well. So that's yet another plus for the Sizzix. I can't actually believe that I forgot to even mention about the big dies, because that was probably one of the biggest reasons, as apart from me struggling to get the warped plates through this, was the next biggest reason for me to get this, because I did have a manual Bigshot to use these bigs, but I've got rid of that manual one now because this can just replace everything. So yeah, just thought I'd add that little bit in again. Yeah, I'd really like it to hear what your thoughts and ideas are, and what machines you all have, and what your favourite machine is, and what machine, if you haven't got either of these machines, what machine do you think you would go with? And also, if you have got these machines and you've got both like me, what's your thoughts? Do you agree with me? Is the Sizzix better, or do you feel like the Gemini is better? I'd really like to get your feedback on that. So without further ado, I feel like we've really come to an end for this video. So I would like to thank you all for watching and taking the time out to listen to me babble on, usually halfway through most of these videos. So but yeah, so just thank you for watching, and I'd really love it if you'd subscribe and give me a thumbs up, and I shall see you in the next video. Bye!